Jörmungandr here. Jörmungandr is one of three monstrous children born to the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angrboða in Norse mythology, alongside the wolf Fenrir and the goddess Hel. When Odin learned prophecies foretold these children would bring great trouble, he cast the young serpent into the ocean surrounding Midgard, the realm of humans. There, Jörmungandr grew to enormous size, encircling the entire world and grasping its own tail. The Prose Edda describes three significant encounters between Jörmungandr and Thor. During a fishing trip with the giant Hymir, Thor used an ox head as bait and nearly hauled the serpent from the depths before Hymir cut the line in terror. In the hall of Utgarda Loki, Thor attempted to lift what appeared to be a cat but was actually Jörmungandr in disguise, managing only to raise one paw. The final confrontation occurs at Ragnarok, the prophesied end of the world, when Jörmungandr releases its tail and rises from the ocean. According to the poetic Edda's Völuspá, Thor kills the serpent during this apocalyptic battle, but walks only 9 steps before collapsing dead from its venom. The serpent's movements cause earthquakes, and its release signals the beginning of the final destruction. Jörmungandr represents contained chaos in Norse cosmology, a world-ending threat held in check until fate decrees otherwise, embodying the belief that even gods cannot escape their destined ends. Nidhugr. Nidhugr, whose name translates to Malice Striker, or Striker in the Dark, is a primordial dragon dwelling beneath Yggdrasil, the world tree that connects the 9 realms of Norse cosmology. According to the Prose Edda's Gylfaginning, this massive serpent gnaws perpetually at the roots of Yggdrasil near the spring Hvergelmir, working ceaselessly to undermine the cosmic order. The poetic Edda's Grimnismal describes Nidhugr accompanied by numerous other serpents including Goin, Moin, Grafitnir, Grafalundr, Ofnir, and Svafnir, all chewing at the tree's roots. Beyond threatening the stability of the universe, Nidhugr serves another grim function in the realm of Nostrand, the shore of corpses, where it consumes the bodies of murderers, oathbreakers, and adulterers who are sent there after death. The dragon engages in an eternal feud with an unnamed eagle perched at Yggdrasil's crown, with the squirrel Ratatoskr scurrying up and down the trunk, carrying insults between them. This conflict symbolizes the cosmic tension between opposing forces in Norse thought. Remarkably, the Völuspá suggests Nidhugr survives Ragnarok, the apocalyptic end of the current world, flying through the air bearing corpses beneath its wings into the New Age. This survival distinguishes Nidhugr from nearly all other beings in Norse mythology, suggesting that decay and destruction are eternal forces that persist even through universal rebirth. The dragon's constant gnawing represents entropy itself, an inescapable force working against order and stability from beneath the foundation of existence. Fafnir. Fafnir began not as a dragon but as a dwarf, the son of Hreidmar and brother to Regin and Satrió. His transformation stems from cursed Rheingold treasure, particularly the ring on Viranaut, which the gods gave Hreidmar as compensation after Loki killed Odin. The dwarf Andvari, forced to surrender his gold, cursed it to bring death to all possessors. Consumed by greed, Fafnir murdered his father to claim the treasure, then retreated to Gnitaheidr where he gradually transformed into a massive serpentine dragon, his avarice physically corrupting his form. The Volsunga saga describes how Fafnir would crawl daily from his cave to drink water, wearing the helm of awe that inspired terror in all who beheld him. His brother Regin, a master smith, fostered the young hero Sigurd and forged him the legendary sword Gram to slay Fafnir. Following Regin's counsel, Sigurd dug a pit along Fafnir's path and hid within. When the dragon passed overhead, Sigurd thrust Gram upward into Fafnir's soft belly, delivering a mortal wound. As Fafnir died, he warned Sigurd about the curse. When Sigurd tasted Fafnir's blood while roasting the heart for Regin, he gained the ability to understand birds who warned him Regin planned treachery. The tale appears in both Norse sources and the German Nibelungenlied, where the hero is called Siegfried, demonstrating the legend's widespread influence across Germanic cultures. Beowulf's Dragon. The unnamed dragon in the Anglo-Saxon epic Beowulf represents the hero's final and fatal adversary, concluding a life of legendary monster slaying. According to the poem, composed sometime between the 8th and 11th centuries, this ancient serpent had guarded a treasure hoard for 300 years after discovering it abandoned in a barrow by the last survivor of a forgotten people. The dragon's rage awakens when a slave, seeking to appease his master, steals a single jeweled cup from the hoard. Driven by possessive fury, the fire-breathing serpent systematically attacks the land of the Geats, burning villages and halls during nocturnal flights. Beowulf, now an aged king having ruled 50 years, determines to face the dragon despite his warriors' fears. The poem describes the creature as 50 feet in length, coiled around its treasure within the stone barrow. When Beowulf confronts it, his companions flee in terror except for the young warrior Wiglaf. Beowulf's sword, nagling, fails against the dragon's scales, shattering in his hands. The king seizes the dragon's neck in his bare hands, while Wiglaf stabs the creature's softer underbelly. Together they kill the serpent, but not before it sinks venomous fangs into Beowulf's neck. The hero dies from the poison shortly after, and the treasure, revealed to be cursed, is buried with him rather than distributed among his people. This dragon differs from earlier Germanic serpents by breathing fire and representing the inevitable mortality of even the greatest heroes, showing that age and fate defeat all warriors eventually. Lagarfljótsormurin. Lagarfljótsormurin is an Icelandic serpent dwelling in the lake Lagarfljót in East Iceland, representing one of few Germanic dragons with continuous sighting traditions extending into modern times. According to legend, a young girl received a tiny lindworm along with a gold ring, having been told the serpent would cause the gold to multiply if placed together. When the worm grew alarmingly large, she became frightened and threw both creature and gold into the lake. There, the serpent continued growing to enormous proportions, its body eventually exceeding the lake's 25-kilometer length, according to some accounts. The first recorded sighting dates to 1345, establishing the legend's medieval origins. In 1589, two Finnish magicians reportedly attempted to kill the creature using magic, but failed, with the worm remaining in the lake's depths, which reach up to 112 meters. Appearances of the Lagarfljót worm are traditionally considered ill omens in Icelandic folklore. The creature is typically described surfacing with multiple humps or coils breaking the water, resembling other lake serpent traditions. Sightings continued through subsequent centuries, with a notable 1963 incident involving multiple witnesses. In 2012, amateur video footage purportedly showing the worm moving beneath ice renewed international interest, though analysis proved inconclusive. The legend reflects the fusion of older Norse dragon traditions, particularly the gold hoarding motif, with later Icelandic folklore. Unlike most Germanic dragons that exist purely in ancient texts, Lagarfljótsormurin represents a living legend that adapts and persists alongside modernization, demonstrating the enduring power of dragon mythology. Lindworm. The lindworm, or lindsworm, represents a distinctive category of Germanic and Scandinavian dragons characterized by serpentine bodies, and either two forelegs or none at all, never possessing wings. These creatures appear throughout Northern European folklore as both treasure-guarding monsters and cursed beings capable of transformation. The most famous lindworm tale, Prince Lindworm, originates from Scandinavian fairy tales and involves a queen who, desperate for children, consults a witch who instructs her to eat two magical flowers, but warns she must choose only one. Disregarding this warning, she eats both and consequently gives birth first to a lindworm, then later to a normal prince. The lindworm, upon reaching maturity, demands a bride before his brother can marry. Multiple brides meet tragic ends until one clever girl, following a wise woman's advice, wears 10 shifts to her wedding. As the lindworm sheds each skin, she removes a shift, then beats the creature with whips dipped in lye and bathes it in milk. This ordeal breaks the curse, transforming the lindworm into a handsome prince. Beyond fairy tales, lindworms feature prominently in Germanic city legends, most notably Klagenfurt's founding myth, where a dragon terrorized the area until knights killed it in its cave. A supposed lindworm skull was displayed as proof for centuries, likely a rhinoceros skull. Lindworms also appear extensively in Northern European heraldry, particularly in German, Austrian, and Slovenian civic arms. Some scholars suggest these legends originated from discoveries of dinosaur or Ice Age megafauna fossils, which medieval people interpreted as dragon remains, giving tangible basis to the myths. The Serpent Pit Dragons. The Serpent Pit represents a brutal execution method in Germanic legend, most famously associated with the death of the legendary Norse hero Ragnar Lodbrok, though the creatures involved are typically described as venomous serpents rather than traditional dragons. According to Norse sagas, particularly the Ragnarssonathattr, Tale of Ragnar's Sons, Ragnar was captured during a failed invasion of England around 865 AD and thrown into a pit filled with snakes by King Ella of Northumbria. The number of serpents varies across accounts, with some describing dozens, while others claim hundreds writhe in the deep stone chamber. Legend holds that Ragnar initially survived due to magical protective clothing, sometimes described as enchanted trousers or a cloak that repelled the creature's fangs. When King Ella discovered this protection and had it removed, the serpents finally struck. As he died slowly from countless venomous bites, Ragnar reportedly recited the Krokomal, his death song, boasting of his lifetime of conquests and predicting his sons would avenge him. This prophecy proved accurate when the great heathen army, led by Ragnar's sons including Ivar the Boneless and Björn Ironside, invaded England between 865 and 878 AD. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle documents this massive Viking invasion, though it does not mention the serpent pit specifically. Historians debate whether the snake pit execution actually occurred or represents literary embellishment, as King Ella was a historical figure who did die during the Viking invasion. Regardless of historical accuracy, the legend demonstrates how serpents and dragons served as instruments of treacherous death in Germanic culture, representing not wild threats, but calculated cruelty wielded by enemies against heroes. The Yggdrasil serpents. While Nidhugr receives the most attention, the poetic Edda's Grimnismal reveals numerous other serpents gnawing at Yggdrasil's roots alongside the great dragon, each working perpetually to undermine the world tree's stability. Stanzas 34 and 35 of Grimnismal name several of these creatures: Goen, Moin, Grafvitnir, meaning grave wolf, Grafvolundr, Ofnir, meaning entangler, and Svafnir, meaning sleepbringer, though the exact number varies depending on manuscript and translation. These serpents lie beneath the ash tree at different roots, with scholars debating whether they represent literal beings or poetic metaphors for decay and entropy. The names themselves suggest various aspects of death and destruction, from graves to sleep to entanglement, indicating they may personify different forms of cosmic decline. Unlike Nidhugr, these serpents receive minimal individual characterization in surviving sources, functioning instead as a collective force of deterioration. The world tree simultaneously faces attack from 4 stags that eat its branches, creating an entire ecosystem of destructive entities working against Yggdrasil's survival. This imagery reflects the Norse worldview that maintaining cosmic order requires constant struggle against multiple persistent threats, rather than defeating a single apocalyptic enemy. The serpent's endless gnawing demonstrates that Ragnarok is not merely one catastrophic battle, but the culmination of ages of accumulated damage. Their presence alongside Nidhugr emphasizes that even the most fundamental structures of existence face relentless assault from forces of chaos, and that preservation of order demands eternal vigilance against gradual decay, rather than only dramatic confrontations. The dragon from Volsunga Saga. Regan, brother to the dragon Fafnir and son of Hreidmar, represents a different manifestation of the curse afflicting their family, showing how dragon nature corrupts, without necessarily requiring physical transformation into serpent form. The Volsunga Saga and the poetic Edda's Regansmal describe Regan as a master smith and cunning dwarf who fostered the young hero Sigurd after his father's death. Unlike his brother, who became a monstrous dragon, Regan retained his original form, but possessed dragon-like greed and treachery in his heart. He taught Sigurd numerous skills, including metalworking, languages, and warfare, while constantly urging him to slay Fafnir and claim the cursed treasure. Regan forged the legendary sword Gram for Sigurd from the shattered pieces of his father's blade, creating a weapon so sharp it could cut through an anvil. After Sigurd successfully killed Fafnir by hiding in a pit and stabbing upward into the dragon's soft belly, Regan asked the hero to roast Fafnir's heart for him. When Sigurd tasted the dragon's blood while cooking, he suddenly gained the ability to understand bird speech. The birds warned that Regan, consumed by the same curse that transformed his brother, planned to murder Sigurd and claim all the treasure for himself. Acting on this warning, Sigurd beheaded Regan before the treachery could occur. This tale demonstrates that the curse on the Rhinegold affected the entire family, destroying all 3 brothers despite their different paths. While Fafnir's physical transformation into a dragon is dramatic, Regan's internal corruption proves equally deadly, showing that greed's dragon nature operates through both obvious and subtle manifestations. The Grendel's kin, dragon elements. While not explicitly dragons, Grendel and his mother from the Anglo-Saxon epic Beowulf possess numerous characteristics, linking them to Germanic dragon traditions. representing a blurred boundary between monster categories in early medieval literature. Grendel's mother dwells in an underwater hall, accessed through a dark mirror, similar to treasure-guarding dragons in their caves, and this hall contains ancient weapons and treasures, including a giant forged sword that Beowulf ultimately uses to behead her. The mirror itself exhibits supernatural properties described in the poem, with its waters boiling and serpentine creatures explicitly mentioned dwelling there, referred to as Nicaros, often translated as sea dragons or water monsters. When Beowulf dives into the mirror to pursue Grendel's mother, he encounters these serpentine beings that attack him before he reaches the bottom. The underwater hall glows with an eerie light reminiscent of dragon hordes in later Germanic legends. Scholars debate whether Grendel's lineage, traced to Cain in the Christian framework of Beowulf, represents an overlay on earlier pagan monster traditions that may have included more explicitly dragon-like characteristics. The poem describes both Grendel and his mother with movements and attributes that some translations render as serpentine or reptilian, though Old English terminology makes precise categorization difficult. The mirror's ecosystem of serpents and the treasure-filled underwater lair suggest dragon-inhabited waters as a traditional threat in Germanic culture. This blending of monster types demonstrates that early Germanic peoples did not necessarily distinguish dragons as a completely separate category from other chthonic creatures, but rather saw overlapping characteristics of serpentine form, treasure hoarding, aquatic dwelling, and supernatural invulnerability, connecting various legendary threats. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.